Welcome to some new r/malicious compliance stories, where people comply to the letter, but not the spirit of a request. I hope you had a great day. The first story is called No Button. My job requires wearing a suit, shirt and tie, which are provided by the company, and looking sharp at all times. Freshly shaved, polished shoes, ironed clothes, the works. I've always complied with everything except for one small detail, the shirt neck button. My Adam's apple is a bit larger than normal, and fastening the button is very uncomfortable for me, especially with the somewhat tight shirts they give us. I tried altering the neck and using extenders, but no matter what I did, it was still pretty unbearable. In the end, I decided to leave it unfastened and just push the tie knot up enough to cover that area. Not very elegant. But since I barely crossed paths with my manager, who is very fastidious about this, and our customers really don't pay that much attention to us, I could get away with this for a long time. Then the inevitable happened. Some weeks ago, I had a somewhat frantic afternoon in which my tie loosened, and before I could fix it, my manager came in unexpectedly to grab some papers. It took him a second to see my neck was unbuttoned, so he called me to his office for an explanation. I tried to justify myself, but he couldn't care less about my Adam's apple and told me, in no uncertain terms, that he did not want to see that neck button ever again, or I would be written up. I despaired the whole following day trying to find a solution, when suddenly it hit me. If the problem was seeing the button, why not remove it entirely? So I took them out from every work shirt I have. And, boy, I don't know why I didn't think of this before. It never occurred to me that without it, it's a lot easier to cover that area with the tie knot, which I don't have to push up so much, so it's more comfortable. And it's harder to see whether it is fastened or not. It's been almost a month since, and not only has my manager not noticed, he was actually inches from my face recently to adjust my collar, which was a bit uneven. He's fastidious like that, and he was still none the wiser. I have to clarify, the shirts are technically company property, even though we keep them at home, and they would not be happy to find out what I did. But well, my manager did say he didn't want to see the button again. The next story is called Insistence Cost Him. My cousin is Indian and lives in India and works for a major American cruise line. His usual schedule is 9 months of work sailing around North America and 3 months of vacation time back in India. The maritime insurance company that he's insured with provides medical coverage for him. He was on vacation in India and injured his knee playing soccer. It required a reconstruction surgery and some months of rehab before he was fit to work again. There's public healthcare in India, but for something like this, it still costs money, although not as much as private hospitals, and also takes time as there's a waiting list. So he decided to go private, which is costlier. He contacted the insurance company to confirm his eligibility to receive coverage, and they confirmed that he was indeed eligible. So he went to a surgeon and got a letter from him detailing the estimated cost of the surgery, the date and other relevant medical details. He emailed the details to the insurance company and they approved the surgery. Only one problem. They insisted on direct billing to the doctor. Now, doctors in India are familiar with direct billing, but it's mostly with insurance companies that operate domestically in India. Naturally, the doctor was hesitant to accept their arrangement, despite receiving a letter of guarantee from them. He simply wasn't convinced of the legal validity of a letter of guarantee from a foreign insurance company in India. What if they, for some reason, refuse to pay? He can't do anything about it. So at this point, my cousin stepped in and suggested to the company that he'll foot the bill up front and then submit a claim, after which the company can reimburse him. The insurance company seemed to agree at first, but this medical cost containment company they were partnered up with was vehemently opposed to the idea. They insisted on direct billing, even though it didn't make a lick of a difference in terms of cost. He tried convincing them that no doctor in India would accept this arrangement from a foreign insurance company, but they wouldn't relent. At last, he said screw this. He went on a citywide search and finally found a top doctor in one of the most expensive hospitals in the city who was willing to operate on his knee with a letter of guarantee. The doctor also worked in 3 months of post-operations physiotherapy costs into the surgery bill. The hospital had the best rooms, the best service and the highest quality of care. The doctor worked with some of the top athletes in the country, and the final estimated cost was at least 700% more than the previous doctor. The insurance company didn't object and simply approved the surgery. He expected them to question the cost, but it was only around $8,000, the equivalent of 4 ambulance rides in America. That must be a paltry sum for the company. At the end of the day, my cousin got the best care possible because of the insurance company's inexplicable insistence. Or maybe they had good reason, but they lost money at the end of the day. The last story is called Job Duties. A couple of years ago, I took a job in the kitchen of a private healthcare facility. I had worked in kitchens for more than 10 years before this in various roles and knew I was overqualified for the job. But a close friend who was already working there had asked that I come to fill a spot because they were short-staffed. And I wanted a low-stress job for the time being that could accommodate my schedule of working both jobs before switching careers altogether. It's a relatively small kitchen with only a head chef, Jessica, and at most maybe 2 to 3 other people on any shift. Head chef is a bit of an exaggeration. This lady sat in her office chair, dealt with paperwork, and occasionally walked around the kitchen to give us criticism on whatever we were working on at the time. I've had a lot of bosses throughout the years, and she was by far the worst. Aside from her though, the rest of my coworkers were great. We communicated and worked as a team to get everything done, regardless of what specific task was assigned to anyone. I was hired on as what she liked to call support. This basically meant I did a lot of the menial prep and restocking tasks that no one else wanted to do. This was fine, because with my experience, knife work went faster for me than for anyone else. But because of that experience, I was also relied on pretty heavily by the rest of the cooks to help them out with their tasks. I didn't mind this because, like I said, we all helped each other to achieve the common goal, and everything got done by the end of the day. Everything was going great, and we were running smoothly for about 4 months after I had started. And this is where we get into the beginning of my compliance issue. After 4 months, we lost a couple of team members, and they ended up getting replaced with people that didn't really fit into the chemistry we had built up. Overall, they were lazy, took constant breaks for 20+ minutes at a time, and had to be babysat for their entire shift. If they weren't explicitly told to do something, they would just sit around waiting for direction. The rest of the remaining crew did their best to work around this and train them so we could get back to the cohesive teamwork we had all gotten used to. But in the meantime, a few things had started to slide, and some tasks weren't getting done. Nothing major, things like not replacing the juice in the drink machine or refilling the stash of coffee by the coffee makers, stuff like that. Well, Jessica had a real issue with this. But because she is never actually working with us to see where the problems were actually stemming from, she decided to start pointing fingers blindly and making changes. She called all of us into a meeting where she had printed us all lists to remind us of our job duties and responsibilities. I read over mine carefully, and here is how the conversation went. Hey Jessica, I see on my... Let me stop you right there. This is not up for discussion. This is what you were hired to do, and this is what you will be doing. If all of your tasks aren't finished by the end of your shift, you will be the one responsible. Jessica, this list doesn't even include... Again, we are not here to discuss. You have all been slacking, and you can all consider this your verbal warning. She turns to look directly at me. If the problems persist, we will take disciplinary action. I walked out of that meeting laughing like a madman. We typically worked 8 to 10 hour shifts, and the entirety of my list could be completed in 2 hours or less. I talked to my friend, who was already having the same thoughts I was, and we both agreed to just let it ride and enjoy the show. That list became my Bible. I had it on my person at all times, for every shift, just neatly folded in my back pocket. I showed up every single day with my earbuds and got started on all of the menial BS that was on my list. Cutting fruit, restocking the snack counter, refilling coffee machines. And I made sure to set up my station at the closest possible point to Jessica's office. Every single day, my coworkers would come back to me asking for help with whatever they were doing. And each time I would very calmly reach back and pull out the folded piece of paper that had become my personal Magna Carta. I would pretend to scour over it as if it was my first time reading it and reply with, "I'm sorry coworker, I just don't see that anywhere on my list. I can't help you. You should ask Jessica." I said it loud enough for her to hear with me being so close. My coworkers started to catch on. They would come back to my station multiple times a day for me to put on my little song and dance routine, each time pulling out my little piece of paper and adhering to the word printed on it as if it were law. After a few weeks of this, the tension had really started to build between Jessica and I, as the issue we were facing before the meeting only continued to get worse. But what could she do? She had made her decision, and she never admitted that she was wrong. Eventually, after enough complaints from our clients and other staff members, she was let go. It's a bit anticlimactic, but I actually left not long after that. I told everyone with her gone, work was just too boring. I didn't have anyone to go to battle with. In reality, my second job had really started to pick up and I was able to go full-time and switch careers. I've heard from friends that they actually promoted one of my old co-workers and he is doing a great job in that position and everything is running smoothly again. My thoughts and prayers go out to anyone who decides to hire Jessica in the future. And with that, we end today's video. Let me know what you think about the stories. On a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate the stories and today's video? I hope you enjoyed the video. If you like what I do and would like to support me, please subscribe and hit the like button. I hope you have a great day. Stay safe. Bye bye.